slow with cataract. Time you get out the drives, after you had that replacement, I can see way up on the horizons. We run you know, I put that off as well. I sure about that. 2 days apart. Sometimes they space them 2 or 3 days, but if you have a lot of decimal bands, you got to tall up creases. So I try to you got to be careful about with a lot of decimal bands. Keep it out in the sunshine.
During the summer, I'm not going down that.
Until you got after the 2 days.
Till the end of the month on that.
Until Thursday.
It's not intense.
Moving stuff. It's easy to put in the box, it's easy to push them out of the box and get away from it.
So we just need to make our start time about 4:30.
Tell him we're starting at 4:20.
Oh, that might be. One second. Start time at 4:34. That's fine.
Let's give you a. Okay.
It's fine to get away.
Just the trees, you can have messes.
Yeah.
Can't get good. Just a little too.
All right. I have 4:34. At this time, we'll call the meeting of the Kansas City Commission to order. And with that, Mr. Potter, would you please?
Dear Heavenly Father, we just ask that you be with us this evening so that when we can make good, sound decisions for our city, for our citizens. Lord, we're grateful. We're so grateful for the blessings that you've bestowed on us and in our city. Lord, we lift our country up to you and our leaders. And we just ask that be with us as we meet tonight. We love you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that takes us to item number 4, approval of the minutes of the meeting of July 31st, 2023.
If there are no changes, I move we approve.
A second.
Have a motion and a second to approve as written. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion passes. All right, that takes us to item number 5, public comment, comments from interested citizens. We do have several that have signed in, and I think what we will do is, it looks like these are all related to item number 15. And with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and move that item up next to address. So with that, we will update and consider and take appropriate action on repair repairs at Brown Road Railroad Crossing, quiet zone, and future Brown Road. Joe, you want to give us just a brief introduction first, or your introduction, and then we'll go ahead and take some public comments.
There is an extremely detailed agenda item in your packets. I hope everybody got a chance to look it over, including from the timeline of events. City Attorney Chuck Hester and I helped put this together to try to wrangle some of it. Obviously, it doesn't have every fact, but we tried to summarize as best we could. Ultimately, the last thing that has occurred is we finally received something in writing from BNSF. That is in the packet as well. That comes from Ms. Bird. She is one of their attorneys, and she is on the Public Projects Division side of BNSF, unlike the other attorney we spoke to who's on the Claims side division of BNSF. You can see her correspondence back to us. It took a couple months to get finally something in writing from them. Really haven't had much of a response from our facts and findings from looking at the video. We do have an image of in the packet of the plank lodged up into the truck. You can clearly see it. Just to recap, it's our opinion. As a reminder, let me back up. As a reminder, once this incident occurred, within 2 days' time, that railroad crossing was already repaired. So all of that you see damaged on the railroad crossing in the right-of-way of the railroad was repaired. That was confirmed by our Randall County road superintendent when he went to look at it. We heard about the same time from Mr. Tim Hoya at BNSF, who we've known through doing our quiet zones. We knew him through our quiet zones in the past. He's out of the Fort Worth office. And ultimately, the first item that he indicated to us via email was this had to be a grade crossing issue. That correspondence is in this packet as well. You can see there was no other thoughts other than that's what it is. In our interpretation from the staff level, that appeared to be basically their audible and their playbook is to, hey, it had to be the grade crossing. In addition, we talked to TxDOT at length about that because TxDOT has to deal with a bunch of these crossings as well. And they kind of confirmed that anytime a major incident or crash occurs, that's kind of exactly where BNSF goes. At that point, we Chuck and I had talked at length on just making sure we were clear on the cause of this incident. We personally, after doing lots of looking, yes, those grade crossings, the approach to it aren't to what standards are, but I mean that road crossing has been there for quite some time. Nothing has changed other than the maintenance in the railroad right-of-way. Chuck got a couple affidavits from nearby folks. Several of the staff members for the city, as well as several citizens, had driven over that track prior to this incident occurring and had felt that specific pallet, whatever you want to call it, on that end, moving. It was not secured to the ground and had not been secured to the ground at that time. Chuck, anything more to add on that?
No, I mean, the conclusion that we reached after everything, including the third-party witnesses' affidavits and looking at the visual, is that the approximate cause of that train truck collision was the lodging of that concrete panel underneath the belly of the truck, as you can see there. And that was caused by that truck had traversed that grade crossing safely 4 times that day. And that was caused by improper maintenance of that crossing on the part of BNSF. Nobody but the railroad has a right to maintain that crossing inside the right-of-way. And so, for whatever reason, that panel was not secured enough to avoid that panel becoming dislodged and sticking underneath the belly of that truck or the trailer, which caused the truck to become immobilized. Additionally, the driver of the truck interviewed with police officers immediately after this accident and said that she had dismounted the truck when she realized it was stuck on the grade crossing and called the number on the signal box there at the grade crossing. And after several attempts, extending over several minutes to reach someone at that number, no one answered the call. And that was well before the train arrived at the grade crossing. It's our theory and our opinion, based on what we've heard, that if someone had answered that call, there's at least a possibility of advance warning being given to the train in sufficient time for the train to slow down enough to avoid that collision. By the time the train crew saw the truck, it takes too long to stop the train. They couldn't stop the train in that length of time. So we've asked BNSF two things really. We've asked them to participate with the city and county on redoing the approaches to the grade crossing, because they're going to have to do the work inside the right of way anyway. So our theory is we should split that three ways between the city, county, and the railroad in a collaborative effort to get that fixed in a manner that will avoid that problem in the future. And since that grade crossing was repaired within 2 days after the collision, we have asked them to reopen it with proper signage, load limiting the road with proper signage as recommended by TxDOT. Reopen it pending construction. At some point in time, construction will have to occur out there on the approaches, and at that time, the grade crossing will need to be closed for construction. But for the convenience of the public in Canyon and Randall County, we have asked them several times now to reopen that crossing with proper signage on the approaches so the public can have access to that grade crossing, and they have not done so. They didn't respond positively on the last occasion, and the previous occasions have just been basically crickets. I mean, no response.
Additionally, to add fuel to the fire, in order to confer and understand what exactly happened, it took Chuck 6 months to obtain that footage on the screen.
Yeah.
So they were very obstinate to give up the train footage on this. And so that clearly, go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, well, I'll second that. It took a long time to get it.
To just confirm that. So that's kind of where it is in a nutshell. I don't think they're completely out on sharing cost. I do think there's probably something that could arise. I think we need to come up with that. I think we'd like to listen to hear what people say and have some conference and collaboration with the commission. Chuck and I have some ideas to throw out on some next steps to get there, in addition to moving forward with reconstruction of this crossing. So, and additionally, everything we do, we have to collaborate and be on board with Randall County. Randall County has half the road and we have half the road, and this is a section line road, so some have asked, they do have funds available to close railroad crossings, but we don't find that to be anywhere a good option in this situation against that. So if that's it, Chuck, anything else?
Not right now. I'd like to hear what the public has to say, and then we may have further comments.
All right, with that, let's go to the public comment part. I will ask, as part of our guidelines, if you would state your name, your address, and we ask that you keep it to 3 minutes of comments. So, with that, Barbara Thompson, would you like to come up and speak?
Last one in, first one up. All right. I am Barbara Thompson. I live at 1001 Brown Road. I'm a registered nurse, okay? I'm a little bit nervous. I've seen multiple crossings closed at times. We have a lot of older folks that live on Brown Road that need access to emergency care. And when the railroads are closed, you have no way to get to them. And Brown Road needs to be reopened. I don't care what it costs. I know it's easy for me to say because I'm not paying the bill. But if you have somebody in cardiac arrest, they have limited amount of time to get to them. When you have 6th Avenue, 4th Avenue, and Brown Road closed or blocked because of a train, you can get medical help to the people that need it. My mom's the one, but she hasn't needed it because I'm there. But it's just, it breaks my heart to see people who need, we need access, basically. If the kids playing in the soccer field were to have an incident, cardiac arrest, and both roads are blocked, Brown Road's closed, how are you going to get that kid the help they need? Okay? This is just, from a nursing standpoint, it's not safe. If I had to take care of multiple people and no way to get them out, that's not safe. Something has to be done. Now, is the railroad gonna pay for, if somebody dies because there's no way and the train's blocking? Is the railroad gonna pay the claim? Because I'm sure there'll be a lawsuit. Are they even considering that? And I have been over that crossing before when they were fixing it. And yes, that was loose. You could feel it in your vehicle when you crossed it. But that's just my 2 cents. I have ways to get around, but some of these people that are older do not. And they have to have a way for people to get to them. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Barbara.
How are you just gonna bring up that point about?
Oh, about the no signal?
Yeah.
Yes. They also, y'all are talking about making it a no horn blowing, a quiet crossing. We have too many tractors pulling equipment going across Brown Road. That just would not be feasible. There's too many agricultural areas that need that opened. So, the kid's been playing in the soccer field with the horn blowing. Who cares, Don't make it a silent crossing because of the soccer field. No offense to soccer people. But if y'all do that, it's harder for the equipment to get across and back. People moving homes, stuff out that way. It's just not.
It would have to be widened at that point.
Right, but still, you're still gonna have that median in there and it's gonna hang things up. If you have a trailer house, I had one moved out there before that all happened. You have a trailer house coming across there, it's not gonna be wide enough to get a trailer house through.
We would not allow access for a trailer house. That has to be a permitted route.
Okay, but
certain
it
things
was
that we-
currently a permitted route before the train incident.
I don't know if it was or not with
Yeah.
DOT. I'd have to check with them.
Yeah,
So,
but the weight limit on the road, awesome. Stop them trucks.
and that's the
They're overloaded anyways.
That's one thing we're gonna talk about tonight. We've
Yeah,
considered maybe weight loading, not just Brown Road, but also Fourth going
yeah.
down to
Oh,
town.
4th is already torn up.
We're
Yeah.
over our 3 minutes.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
fine. That takes my mama's time.
Alton Bell?
I took your time, Mama.
Name's Dalton Bell. I live at 16 Lindsay Lane here in town. I have owned and operated the Youth Flag Football League for the last 8 years. We play there at Brown Road. I am for the Brown Road being opened as soon as possible, but while we're in this stage of rebuilding, I want to push to have that a silent crossing. I understand other folks' stance on that, but I think that with this time being the way it is, where it's at right now, if we take the chance or take the opportunity to go ahead and widen that thing, turn it into a silent crossing, I think it'll be a huge benefit to the park, to the youth programs here in town. Sometimes that horn blows, we got little kids out there, it can be a little traumatic, but I think it would be really beneficial to the town, to the league, to the park. So that's kind of my 2 cents. Asking you guys if we're gonna have to go ahead and widen this thing, it's been a little extra, let's do it now, while it's in this process, a chance to do it, so. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Dalton. John Paul?
Yeah, my name's John Pauly. We live at 16335 W Circle. We've lived in Canyon now for about 10 years. I have 4 kids. I've coached 3 of them for years in some combination, a lot of times at the same time, soccer and flag football out at Brown Road. And I think the best word to describe the noise from the constant trains is disruptive. For a couple reasons. So one of the great things about those leagues and the Flag Football League is that it's fun, but it also brings a lot of people from the community out there at the same time. And so it's not just, a competitive league, it's really a community event. I mean, there's hundreds of kids out there, families and siblings. You're talking easily 1,000 people, multiple nights a week out there. And so, that train noise really does disrupt both just the community engagement. I mean, you can't hear your kids, you can't hear the people next to you, you can't, call to them on the playground. I mean, it's very, very obnoxious. And that's aside from the fact that it actually disrupts the games, right? So they're just games, but, you've got 7, 8, 9, 10 flag football fields. You got 6 soccer games all going at the same time. You have officials, trying to organize games and blow whistles, and coaches trying to talk to players, and parents trying to talk to kids, and you cannot hear anything. And so, you've got one official trying to stop something on one field and nobody can hear him, and then 2 fields over, somebody thinks they hear something and they stop, and it's pretty chaotic. So I would just echo what Dalton said. Not just from a sports standpoint, from that entire community experience, multiple nights a week, to have that be reopened would be great. And I think if there's work that needs to be done, putting in that time and effort and allowing that to become a quiet zone, I think would be a dramatic benefit, to both of those leagues and the hundreds, a couple thousand people who are out there, fall, spring, summer. So, thank you.
Thank you, John. Francis Dorsey.
I live off Brown Road, and as obviously I'd be anxious to have it open as soon as possible. But it was another concern that have been thinking about. I drive from Brown Road over on 4th Avenue into town over on 23rd nearly every morning, Monday through Friday. And I'm concerned about school starting on Wednesday, because some of those big trucks that can't go over the crossing most of them are turning on 4th Avenue. And they'll come down to 4th Street, some of them, but some of them that don't want to take the chance there's a train there they'll have to wait on, or more dips, will go on down to 11th. And because of that, they're interfering with traffic going to the intermediate and the junior high. They're crossing with people trying to bring their kids to school in the mornings or picking them up in the afternoon. So I think once school starts, it's going to you'll see a lot more conflict there between the trucks and the traffic. So just something else to think about.
Okay, thank you. Sean Gales.
My name's Sean Gales. I live on 23500 Back Road. I'm kind of caught in between all of this. I know most of y'all up here. I work for BNSF Railroad. I'm not in it for that. I may be on Brown Road. I think the truck traffic is what I'd like to issue more than kind of my statement on that one is. These trucks going up and down that road, that crossing was really never made for that. That's a pretty steep crossing right there. The only thing I got with the railroad is we're fortunate enough that truck only got hit going slower. If this had been a 70-mile-an-hour train through there, hit that truck, you can see how close it is that parking lot. It could have easily been inside that parking lot. If there were people out there, it could have been really bad. So that's me. I'm a safety and rules instructor for the railroad, so that's kind of my safety part of that deal. But other than that, the truck traffic is what I'm concerned about out there more than anything. Once we get that crossing flat out and leveled out, then those trucks will be going faster as it is. They already speed down through there anyway. I don't know who's supposed to regulate that or watch over that, but we never see anybody out there looking for speeding trucks down that road. And You know, if there's another way, I know that south Cleachy pit, it goes right up Cemetery Road. If they go straight up Cemetery Road and hit 87, I think go right through town that way, not if you come through town. So I'm sure it's something we've all looked at and everything else, but that's more my concern, anything than just all the amount of trucks that go through there. Like I said, I'm afraid when we do get that approach fixed to that crossing, they're just gonna go faster. So with all the kids right there and everybody else, that's my main concerns on that one. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Shirley Holman.
I'm Shirley Holman. I live on Brown Road, have for 50 years. That railroad crossing is, talk about making it where it's stop, look, and listen. All right. No, that does not need to happen because we've got 2 other crossings in town that have that. The thing about it is, my house that I live in, I've lived in it 50 years, and it came across our railroad tracks. I've seen a lot of other houses be moved across that railroad tracks and hit different directions. It would be nice if it was open. I know it ain't gonna happen today, tomorrow, or probably not even next year. But since it was a railroad's fault, I don't know why they are so adamant about not getting on the ball. I guess it's their agenda, they gotta do it in their time frame, I guess. I don't know. But it would be nice if it was open, but I do think the trucks need to be weighed while empty and loaded. Start giving them tickets. That'll hit them in the pocketbook. That'll stop a lot of this overloaded business, because I see more overloaded all the time because I'm home. And the soccer field is nice, but if they can't hear each other, I know that's a problem, because I have a problem with hearing too. But it's been good enough for all these years. I don't want it changed. I think we still need it just open, because we have farm and ranch equipment always coming up and down that road. And it would be nice if it was open, because I know I've been caught at both crossings where you couldn't get in town, and the dispatchers would say, well, that's your problem, or go around. You know, you can go back down Brown, hit Cemetery, then come back up. But there's also 2 tracks, Sauncey, and then you have the cemetery. There's tracks right there. So you could be caught by another 2-mile, 3-mile train. And both those could be closed. So then if that happened, you have to go on down further, then hit Old 87, then go into town. And with her being a nurse, there's been times she's had to fly back down because of both of those blocked. She couldn't get through to go to work. So thank you, and hopefully something can be done about this.
Thank you, Shirley. Well, Joe, I think bottom line, we've done a lot digging in. There's, in the package, there's kind of an estimation of our engineers of cost, and I think both county and city interested in that. Correct me if I'm saying something wrong, but I know I've been in on meetings too that we had with BNSF as well. Chuck, you're talking about the proposal to have BNSF help pay for part of it. I think we put out the possibility of BNSF paying 1/3 of it. They wanted that defined more, and we've talked about splitting things with the county. What I would propose is that we look at that bid, and it looks like to me I'm pulling out a couple of items out of there that would be in that railroad right away. Looks like to me about $178,000 is the number I came up with on those 2 items. There may be a little bit of variance in that or some other items in there. But I would propose that we ask the railroad, give them a specific, ask them to pay for that portion, and then us go back to the county and ask them to split the rest. Split the rest with the exception that they to date have not wanted to help pay for the quiet crossing. And so I would propose that we split it with the city's portion also being the quiet crossing. If we can get on the same page with the county, which I would also suggest that I have met with the county judge, that I would get with the county judge and communicate with them and see where that goes. So personally, I do think unless you're out there on one of those game days when there are hundreds or thousands of folks out there, I don't think you understand the experience unless you're right there, and I have been, when the train horns are honking while they're playing football. It's miserable. I think that's we decided to use that for a park and probably not considering that piece of it. But I think, Brian, I think you've had comments there too that feel like it would really be a positive for the park and the kids.
Not only that's a safety thing for that north parking lot and the east parking lot. Kids can't hear cars coming. If they're walking out into the parking lot, if they can't hear it when a train comes by, they may walk out in front of a car and not even hear it. So I mean, there's a lot of other things that go into that.
It really is an eye-opener if you're out there. I have a chance. I think games are fixing to start here in a couple of weeks. Probably a Tuesday or Thursday evening's a good time to be out there and catch football and soccer both. I think it's worth each of us as commission to get out there and actually experience that. It really is an eye-opener, was for me. So, but I think bottom line, I think that's what I would propose. I think we still need to work with the railroad, and Joe had a couple of thoughts there as far as if we would go with multiple pronged approaches there. We already have avenues with their legal counsel, and so I think an approach back there. And then there's also a Tim Hoya who has been in on some of the conversation, and he's down in Fort Worth. And I think I would propose the judge and I both tried to get a hold of Tim at this point. So other thoughts, ideas, somehow I agree. Here we are a year later, we've got to get this deal done. But also do think this is the opportunity to take to get the quiet crossing done. I think I understand there's probably have been some farm implements from time to time and would have to go around. I'm one that takes farm implements at times too and would have to go down a mile or two. But that's what I would propose. We probably also need to take a look at the traffic piece and it's been thrown out. We need to look and see what their DOT plan is if they're supposed to be going down Brown Road.
I did find that answer out. So only if they have to have a permitted route. So if they're overweight or oversized, they didn't have to have a driving permit from DOT. If they're just regular freight trucks like the one on the screen, they do not. Obviously, if we do weight restrict certain places, we do have Hunsley is one of the ones in town. It is weight restricted. So it would be something like that we could do. I don't know the specific steps for that, but that's kind of what I found out.
So we could weight restrict it if we felt like they were doing too much damage to the road as well then?
Yes.
That's why you would weight restrict it.
Correct. I mean, those roads, everybody in here said it, those roads weren't meant to haul or handle that type of traffic, it's clear, nor was the crossing.
Which was rationale behind weight restricting Hunsley, because you've got 26,000 pound trucks or better, that were degrading that roadway. And so my recollection is that was one of the rationales behind that. And to Sean's comment, that bears some study, into avoiding future incidents of that nature.
I would agree. I think it's been closed long enough. I think it's time to try and figure out how to get it open. And I do agree that we need to work with the other entities and figure out how that looks. But that's a significant road on that side of town. I miss being able to use it personally even at times when I typically would have taken that road out to our farm. But I think it's time to consider what it would take to get that open. I'm for the quiet crossing. I've had 3 kids that have played soccer on those fields, and 2 of my boys play baseball, practice baseball out there, and I've coached on those fields. And so I understand the dilemma of coaching and trying to wrangle kids together out there and figure out what they can hear over. Part of that is just train traffic noise and not necessarily the horns. But I do think that's something that should be considered. I'm not sure exactly where we would farm equipment use and how that would look and what that would look like. But I also think the increase of truck traffic is what I would say. I think there's more truck traffic on that road today than there was previously because of the various things that are located down that road. So that's what I would think we should look at probably. And I don't know if that's county or us, but the increased amount of truck traffic that's on that road now that could then potentially affect the ones that live on that road.
John, a question I had. So timing of the quiet crossing and I think probably specifically the medians, the piece that's an additional construction part. I know the approval takes longer for the quiet crossing. Could we go ahead and construct it with a median in there? And then just use that median then later? Can we design it and build it and have it opened up and at the same time be applied for a quiet crossing to where we don't have the delays and all?
I think in the past, our paperwork has said this is what we propose, but then once we get it in, they have to come and inspect it. If you're talking about widening the road on we're gonna wanna widen that road, Dan, correct, that crossing?
It's gonna look like 4th and 15.
But if we just go
It's
with
gonna have to be wide.
even if we go with the medians, it's still awful narrow there, Gary.
Right. But if we're committed to widening the road, we know we would put a median in there. Can we design it like that? Go ahead and put in I don't know, if that's a 1 foot median is what this is, I think here.
We could do whatever
We could go ahead and put that median and have that in place that, we'd have to finish completing that out with the other signage and other pieces.
We could get started on it. I don't know if the application would move any faster because it's not completed. But we could build that into the project, yes.
Okay.
Without a doubt. And anything that happens, remember, anything that happens in that right of way, if we're paying for it, we will just give them cash. They will bill us and they will do all the work. We won't do anything changing of the width of the signals or any of that.
For the railroad's part.
Correct.
We're anticipating in hopes that they would pay for those portions.
Right, but then any work we did up to the crossing, we could get a flagman for $300 an hour or whatever and do what we needed to do to be in the median or in their right of way. But then when it got to the tracks and anything up there, that's all on them. And that's on their timetable. We can start it.
I just have a couple points of clarification, Chuck. So was the driver cited at all for being overweight?
Driver was cited. She didn't receive a citation at the scene, as I recall. We looked at the crash report, and I filed a complaint against her in municipal court for traversing a grade crossing without sufficient ground clearance, which is a violation under the Transportation Code. Through the course of discovery and incident to that case, I became convinced that was not really the reason that she stuck on that grade crossing. So she was initially charged with a traffic offense for traversing that grade crossing without sufficient undercarriage clearance. Subsequently, after I looked at photographs provided by the defense, as well as this video and some others that came from other sources, including social media, I decided it would be a good idea to dismiss that case. So that case was dismissed.
And so the crossing literally could be open tomorrow.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. It's probably better than it was then.
Well, clearly. God, I hope so.
I meant prior to that.
The other question I have is, how do you know that the rest of the crossings aren't doing the exact same thing? Because I think every one of us drive over, I don't know, I think they're getting a little bit better. But, I mean, we've had two of almost the exact same thing happen out in the county. How do we know that those are,
When they continue to put more asphalt on 15th, right in the middle as well. Not much we can do or say on any of that. But I agree with your conclusion. Just don't think we have anything or what we can or cannot do with it. I don't know.
So Sean, is that partly your department as far as the safety of those crossings?
No, I'm just employee safety. That's all I am. No, and just, I would be scared to open that crossing, but if something did happen again, like I said, that's the only thing that scares me about it. If that happened again and there are people out there everywhere and the train hit that truck going 70 mile an hour, it could be right in on top of those people.
so you feel like something that we're gonna do is gonna fix that problem?
Oh, no, the approach to it, instead of that steep approach, whenever we do get the crossing, the approach to it fixed, I think those trucks could go over it and not have to worry about hanging up on it. So, yeah, yeah.
They need to find another way around.
So, I mean, but like I said, that's not my field. I mean, so don't get me wrong on that one. I do employee safety. I work with engineers and conductors.
I'm not even putting that in minutes.
Yeah, I just don't want anybody, nobody throw anything at me. I'm not the guy out there honking the horn all the time.
How do you spell your first name now?
And for me being I hear train horns all day long, so I would like the quiet zone too. So, but no, it's, you know, like I said, but who knows, it could never happen again, I don't know. I mean, if we left it, nothing happened, I don't know. I think just the truck traffic's what's hurting things. Because they go in there, the railroads have to stay at a certain grade, a certain level. And if it falls, then they raise it back up and they level it back out again so we can run smooth. The road stays the same, so they do maintenance that raises the track and then everything just gets higher.
I will say this, city staff has not stopped working on these efforts since August 31st of 2022. It's not like we're waiting on anything. We've continued to go forward with these efforts and do what we can do, whatever we can do. And in fact, we're about to enter into a contract with the engineering firm to proceed with this, regardless of whether or not we get financial participation from BNSF. So the city and county have got to hash out the quiet zone deal. And I will say this in response to the comments on the QZ. Since you have crossing arms out there, I think and you will have a median for the quiet zone, I think the safety aspect of it from train traffic and pedestrian well, it shouldn't be pedestrian traffic out there, but vehicle traffic across that grade crossing should be minimized, because you do have arms that come down when the train's coming.
In theory, you have to raise the safety factor for that zone. If you're taking out something, you have to increase the safety of that crossing.
When we talked to BNSF on conference call, that question was asked about the safety piece of it. He said, well, that does add a safety factor by putting in that concrete median.
The median and then more signage, the things that you have to do, it raises the percentage, the safety percentage of that, because it's not as far as getting the typical people that get hit, it's not about that horn, it's about weaving around arms.
And several of us have done that before when there wasn't a concrete median there, so.
On what occasion, Mayor?
Is that a confession?
That's why that raises that percentage and allows for that horn to go away is basically that median. And they've decided that you won't back up 100 feet. And if there's a street that hits it, you won't back up 60 feet. 60 feet's the minimum. And they've decided you won't back up, get on the wrong side of the median and drive another 60 feet. By then, you would assume the train was there. Depending how fast you backed up, Gary, drove over on the other side.
I probably wouldn't do that.
You've heard of people that did that.
Nothing safe.
A lot of us
As we
have done things
discussed,
in our-
safety is the biggest issue that we need to put at the forefront anyway. What's gonna be our safest option moving forward?
A lot of us have done things in our younger days.
But it makes it safer, I think.
I feel like it does.
Dan, if truck traffic is restricted, I don't know, you can't restrict truck traffic, you can only restrict the weight. So it's really not gonna matter either way, that's gonna have to be widened.
Yes.
And clearly, from the picture.
Even if you put a 1-foot median in there, it's gonna have to be widened.
Now,
Because it's basically the county minimum standard now, 24 feet wide. And you need 12-foot lanes minimum for truck traffic.
So the width
That's kind of the TxDOT standard. is
the width
12 foot.
meets the county's minimum, but doesn't meet our minimum?
We don't have such. I mean, we do in residential and development situations and stuff like that, but for something like this, we don't really have our own separate standard just for what a crossing's supposed to look like.
Typical street though, width.
Well, yeah, our typical street's 37 foot wide.
How wide do you want it to be?
.32 minimum. It could be wider. 8 feet wider than it is now.
And this bid proposal, does it take it to that width?
Yes, sir, I believe it does. It's either 32 or 34, I can't recall.
but does it move the arms, correct?
Yes, it does move the arms.
It does, okay.
178,000 of it is for the railroad signals and the
Okay, good.
planks.
Because we have to add additional planks.
Correct.
I'm just glad we have somebody here to talk to from BNSF. So does everybody else.
I'm just a PR, I'm nobody.
Finally, they sent somebody.
I live on Brown Road.
I think we've pretty much hashed it out. I just think we need to get some cooperation and make it happen.
Yeah.
My only question is, what interest lies with the commission on having staff look at limiting of the weight? I don't know if anything will come out of it. Obviously, you're pretty ignorant on what goes into that. The county have to approve the weight too, since you guys don't have, but not on Fourth.
Yeah, if the city approved the Fourth, you guys would both have to approve Brown.
Correct.
For some reason, they didn't approve Brown. We'd almost be forcing trucks to Brown full time.
Well, if it's not open, no, they'd have to go down the cemetery. Correct.
I think we need to protect Fourth. I think it's gonna be a dangerous situation, especially when school starts.
That was bad last year.
And like he said, some of them are diverting to Cemetery Road and coming up 87, and then they're going right in front of the elementary school and the high school.
It'd be bad.
So here's some of the options I've got. Obviously, we're gonna continue to move forward on rebuild. And we need to have continued conversations with our county partner on this, as well as potentially doing a proposal with BNSF. I don't have any issues with what you
you've said, Gary. It clearly said, I think in their letter that they needed something more defined. I didn't take it that they were completely out on sharing, but they want something more defined and concrete, pun intended. Something more established in what we request with them. I think it'd probably be a good conversation for you and Judge Dyer to have that discussion with their public projects coordinator, Tim Hoya, as well. And then staff can also look in the increased truck traffic aspect as well, to see what we can do on the late side of things at this point. So we need to make sure that the county is on board with the project scope as well. As per our interlocal agreement, both of us have to sign off on the project scope, if it's widened or not. So, but I think through these collaborative efforts, we can figure that out. But I think it'll take more than just staff at this point. Clearly don't care, as I can tell. Not to be rude or mean, that's just falling off deaf
Certainly
ears.
not a priority.
Certainly not a priority.
So is everybody good? I don't know that we just need a motion. I guess we could have one, but is everybody good moving forward that way? With the prong of BNSF and asking for that participation at around that $178,000 level, and then splitting the rest with the county other than the quiet crossing. So, we as a commission. Very good. All right. We'll move forward and hopefully we get, like I say, Joe, get something pushed open. Yes, sir. All right. Well, thank you all and appreciate everybody coming today too. So that's an important issue. So. All right. With that, we will go back to item number 6. Consider and take appropriate action on proposed tax rate and setting a public hearing of the proposed tax rate for 4/30, August 28, 2023. Joe?
Thank you. So Bo would ordinarily do this, but he's got first grader this year, so he's got to meet the teacher tonight, so I'm going to cover this for him. We're a little bit better organized than we were when we talked to you last time. We've gotten all our information in. We've made all our adjustments to the proposed budget that you received back in July. We've gotten final answers from the tax office. If you recall last time when we were here, we had just gotten the preliminary calculation on the tax rates from the tax office. We had some differences between what they had and what we had. They talked to us the very next day after the meeting, and we've gotten those differences explained. We understand now. So we've got all our numbers in place. So tonight, the purpose of this is to consider the proposed tax rate. Staff is recommending a tax rate. We're also going to communicate to you the no new revenue tax rate that's required by the law, the voter approval tax rate, and the de minimis tax rate. So that's the purpose for this tonight, is to present those 3 rates to you, to make those public, and then also the rate that we're recommending to support the budget that we have proposed as adjusted at this point in time. And so we'll be asking you to make a motion on setting that maximum tax rate. Before we do that, though, I'll go over kind of some of the numbers. In your packet, you received the summary of the budget as it's proposed right now. The general fund revenues, utility fund, and golf, the major funds. We also provided for you a recap of the changes that were made from the proposed budget. And I've kind of summarized that for you. Back on July 7th, we officially posted the proposed budget. In that budget, we had general fund tax revenue of 4.2 million. Since then, we've talked about several of these changes that we've made. At that point in time, we did not have the certified values from PRAD, and we didn't have the certified tax rate calculation from the tax office. After getting those two pieces of information, the adjustment that we had to make to total tax revenue from the proposed to where we're at today is a reduction of 30,215. So we initially proposed 4.2 million, we're down to 4.198. So not much change from what we actually posted to where we are in the budget as we're proposing for consideration right now. The tax rates that have to be calculated, as I've kind of mentioned, the no new revenue tax rate that's required by the state legislature. It's a tax rate that would produce the same amount of levied taxes as in the prior year if applied to the current value of the same property in both years. And that's the 0.36649 per $100 value. The next step up from that is the voter approval rate. If we set the rate at this rate or higher in accordance with the legislation, that would require voter approval. That is the same amount for the no new revenue rate plus an extra 3.5%. And so that comes up to 0.3721. And then the third rate that's mentioned is the de minimis rate. And that is to raise $500,000 in additional revenue for operations over and above the same rate that would have been last year. So that rate is 0.40755. The rate that we are recommending is actually between that voter approval tax rate and the de minimis rate. We are proposing 0.39286, and if you recall from Bo's explanation, we can set this rate and not have an election or be petitioned for an election because we're considered a special district having a population of less than 30,000. That's in accordance with section 26.075 of the tax code. What this would do would generate total tax revenue of 4.3 million. 4,198,000 would be for maintenance operation of the general fund, and then 152,744 would be for servicing the outstanding debt, the 2016 series debt. In the packet, we also included the same information we've given you before on the tax rates, the kind of the trend analysis on the tax rate over the past 5 years, the trend analysis on the valuation over that 5 years. We also have provided the average residence homestead property tax rate. You can see how that's changed over the past 5 years. And these are a calculation that's given to us by PRAD. Provide us with this average homestead rate or value each year, and then we have shown you there the tax rate that was adopted. And then again, this proposed tax rate as well. So for this year, from last year, that average residence homestead appraised value has increased from $236,690 to $262,136. The tax rate that we're proposing is actually a decrease. The tax rate last year was 0.40016, and the tax rate that we're proposing for 23-24 is 0.39286. But the net effect with that increased average value is a 9% increase. So last year, the average tax bill for a City of Canyon resident was $842. And that's increased to 921. course, this is on an average homestead value. We also included in the packet the actual certified rate as calculated by the tax assessor collector and the worksheet that's used to do that calculation. If you have any questions related to the tax rate itself as what we're proposing and what we're communicating as being the rates that have been calculated and have been certified by the tax office. One more piece of information I wanted to call your attention to that was in the packet is the budget calendar as it's been adjusted after we went through the changes over the past couple of weeks. That's the very last page in this agenda item. And so you see there, we have published a notice of the budget public hearing. We did that on August 10th. Tonight, we are considering this tax rate approval, just approving the maximum tax rate. And then also we'll need to set a tax rate public hearing tonight as well. We're proposing that be done on August 23rd. So between now and then, we'll publish the notice of tax rate public hearing and then hold that public hearing on August 23rd. And then also that meeting adopt the budget. And then on August 28th, have the tax rate public hearing and adoption to actually adopt the tax rate. So just to be clear, all you're doing tonight is approving the tax rate. The actual tax rate won't be adopted until after the budget is adopted. Glad to answer any questions you might have, otherwise just need a motion.
Clarify again that tonight's adoption of the maximum tax rate is not the actual tax rate that may be
Exactly.
adopted. It's just you will not go above that tax rate.
That's correct.
I move that a proposed tax rate not to exceed 0.39286 per 100, including a maximum M&O rate of 0.37907 and a maximum INS rate of 0.01379 be placed on the agenda of the City Commission meeting scheduled for Monday, August 28th, 2023 for final action.
Second.
Have a motion and second to set the maximum tax rate. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. The motion passes 4-1. On this, we do.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. Verbal on this one, yes.
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 No. Then we need a motion to set the public hearing.
I move that we set a public hearing for the proposed tax rate for 4:30 on August 28th, 2023.
A second.
Have a motion and a second to set a public hearing on August 28th, 2023. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes. All right, thank you, John. Item number 7 is consider and take appropriate action on siren maintenance agreement. John?
Hopefully this is a simple item. The city would like to sign an interlocal agreement, have our city manager sign an interlocal agreement with the city of Amarillo to assist us with the activation testing and future expansion maintenance of our early warning system, which we have. You can see in here it's $13.93 per siren for an annual total of about $7,000 for the 5 sirens. If our system grows, then that would also grow. But they will help us with that. And, we think it would benefit us on our new system to do that. Would that be a correct statement? It would benefit us to have their assistance on this?
Yes, sir, that's correct. I have a full-time staff member that does this, city of Amarillo does.
They have quite a few of these in Amarillo. So they would be able to assist us with that.
They have a full-time person in emergency management that's their sole job.
So moved.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the interlocal agreement with the City of Amarillo to maintain the outdoor warning system. Just a quick question, so the regular testing, they will actually do that, and we'll continue to have that regular testing, but Amarillo will conduct that, so.
That is correct. It's programmed, it's all computer programmed now. It's programmed for the last Friday of each month at 11:30, weather permitting.
So do we help them then if they're not down here, or we're saying, yes, these sirens are working?
They get emitted signals if they don't go off here.
Okay.
The system is so robust, it tells them if there's a problem, it's not there at their computer system.
All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, would you like for us to wait just a minute? Okay, item number 8, first reading of resolution number 33-2023. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Canyon approving a project funding agreement between Nestor Apiary LLC and Canyon Economic Development Corporation relating to direct financial assistance for business expansion for a business in Canyon, Texas. Stephanie?
Yes, on August 10th, we met for our regular CEDC scheduled meeting to conduct the public hearing. No one was opposed. This project will be known as the Creek House Honey Farm. This is an expansion, so this will actually be number 3 on their expansion. It'll be up to $100,000, not to exceed. It'll be used for job incentives and actually the expansion of their business.
I think this is just a reading only, first reading.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll go on to item number 9, first reading of resolution number 34-2023. A resolution of the Commission of the City of Canyon approving project funding agreement between Pondaseta Brewing Company, LLC, and Canyon Economic Development Corporation relating to direct financial assistance for business expansion for a new business in Canyon, Texas.
So again, during that same meeting on August 10th, Pondaseta Brewing Company came to us in the excitement that they're going to be able to move forward with their expansion before they were they were hoping for like 2 to 3 years, but they're ready to move with it at this point. What that is that not just all the improvements they're already making to the Pondaseta Brewery location in Santa Fe Depot, they're going to be able to probably save themselves some money. So what this is not to exceed $50,000. It's for job incentives and also the expansion of their brewery.
All right. Thank you very much. Consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 31-2023, a resolution of the City Commission of Kansas City, Canyon, Texas, approving a negotiated settlement between the Executive Committee of Cities served by Atmos West Texas Cities and Atmos Energy Corp. West Texas Division regarding the company's 2023 rate review mechanism filing, declaring existing rates to be unreasonable, adopting tariffs that reflect rate adjustments consistent with the negotiated settlement, finding the rates to be set by the attached settlement tariffs to be just and reasonable and in the public interest, approving an attachment establishing a benchmark for pensions and retiree medical benefits, requiring the company to reimburse cities reasonable rate-making expenses, determining that this resolution was passed in accordance with the requirements of the Texas Open Meetings Act, adopting a savings clause, declaring an effective date, and requiring delivery of this resolution to the company and the city's legal counsel. Joe?
Second round. Another somewhat rate case. This is the one with Atmos. Just to remind Commission and everybody, the City of Canyon has original jurisdiction over rate making in our town that has not been preempted by state or federal law. Some have been preempted. We still have original jurisdiction on rate setting in our community. We, along with 70 to 80 other towns, combined together to have cooperative bargaining efforts with them. Ultimately, we most of the time suspend those. It takes a significant amount of time to go through all the rate making mechanisms and all the filings. With this one with Atmos, they had an original increase of 12.1 million to West Texas cities, and then it was reduced down to an increase of about 8.4 million, which does include 2 million in regulatory asset expenses related to the winter storm. Ultimately, that's a good win. Other than that, it's about a $5.04 monthly increase for our ratepayers in town. So you can see the breakdown after those. Other than that, unless y'all want another hour of how these things go and how to deal with, that's pretty much it. We have reached an agreement with Atmos on this. We being the collective cities.
So this increase and the rate has already been negotiated, and
Yep.
so that's all been completed, and this is where we're at.
Correct. The cities come together. I'm not on the committee for the Atmos one. I am for the SPS one, and a set group helps negotiate that for the full 70 to 80 cities, and they have special counsel. Thomas Mercado's his name, and I can't remember their firm. They're out of Austin. They also have rate consultants that they work with, and all this goes through the Public Utility Commission of Texas PUC, and so they work on this. So they've been working on this. I'm trying to remember when we installed. It was early this year. We asked them to. Yeah, they filed this on March 31st. So this was originally filed on March 31st of this year. And all of these have to go through a test year. You'll see that in the literature, SPS as well. So they all have to go through that test year to use that information to base on their rate making mechanism. We would recommend, staff would recommend the recommendation by the special counsel. Yeah, for the motion.
I move we adopt resolution 31-2023 as presented.
Motion and second to adopt the resolution. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. All right, item number 11, consider and take appropriate action on resolution number 32-2023, a resolution by the City of Canyon, Texas, denying Southwest Public Service Company's proposed rate increase request in connection with its statement of intent submitted on about February 8, 2023, requiring reimbursement of reasonable legal and consultant expenses, finding that the meeting complies with the Open Meetings Act, making other findings and provisions related to the subject.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, kind of like the last one, this one we have not been able to get everything. There are timelines in place ultimately when they do make a filing, and we have not been able to get to an agreement on this one as they are going forth. So that is why we are recommending to deny on this one. It was quite a bit of an increase, if you'll see that, 20.6% on base revenue. Just to so a sidebar note in there, there's a lot of these rate mechanisms that we have no say-so over, like fuel factor. Fuel factor is what it is.
So we have no say-so over that. We don't have say-so over certain of the other pieces to it as well. But at this point in time, we're still working through, we being Herrera law firms who we use. And this one I am very much involved in, a lot more than I am on Atmos, us and Amarillo, most of our partners here. But at this time, we still need to continue forward, and AXAM has recommended to deny this rate case at this point in time. And I know there'll be another one coming, rate case.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 32-2023. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. The motion passes. Item number 12 is consider and take appropriate action on authorization of the city manager to enter into a contract with Esabar to perform professional services to include identification, monitoring, reporting, collection, and customer service associated with short-term rentals in Canyon. John?
As you all know, we collect 7% local hotel tax in Canyon. Thanks to a new hotel this year in town, and thanks to also to all the short-term rentals, that'd be Airbnbs and those things around town, we will collect probably over $370,000 this year in that 7% tax. So that means that we're doing well. The hotels, adding the new hotel, the Hampton, this summer's been great, and we've already seen June and July, and those returns were great. Both of the other two hotels have done well, and then Hampton has just come in and done well also. So what this is associated with is the collection of those taxes and also the finding of those establishments is not always the easiest thing to do. The only method that we currently have to find local Airbnbs is to go on Airbnb, look at the front door, recognize where that house is, then have your wife or yourself drive by that house to write down the address of that house. And that's the only method to find those. Because if you go on Airbnb, there's no address, right? It's a general location and you can find it, but you can't really know exactly where that is. So we have gone out for the last year or so, we've been talking with firms that can go out and what they scrape, they data mine, whatever. They go out and they hit all of these websites, Airbnb, VRBO. They talk about others that I haven't personally used, but they talk about other sites being out there. And they constantly look for these locations. They look for these Airbnbs that are opening up. With us, we will assist them in coming up with letters and a process. And once they find them, then they will be mailing letters out to them, welcoming them to our community, letting them know that we will soon to have a registration process and that there is a tax they need to pay and how they can do that and how that works and how to contact everybody, and then also the services that we can offer them when they register and become part of the system. This firm will do all of that follow-up for us. They will also allow through them for these firms, these Airbnbs to pay online without having to come in. They can still come in, but I think that we'll see most of them will change to that, to paying online. And it'll just make things easier for them. It'll also give us all of the contact information we need from them, and they'll be able to reach out to them. And we want to push out information to our local Airbnbs or the hotels. We can push it out through their system. We think it'll be very advantageous to us. We put out an RFP. We received 5 vendors responded to that. Bo and I put that together. We pulled Joel in and also Sean in on the grading of those RFPs. We came up with 2 vendors, Granicus and Azavar, local government. We Zoomed with them twice. These were the two that were the most economical. I also called 3 or 4 references for each one of these and was able to actually speak to some people that had had both of them. Felt like both of them could do the job. And so just purely based on the fact that it seemed to be the most economical choice, the Azavar local government is the product that we landed on. So we would just ask that we budgeted to start this in the fall. And we would just ask to move forward with Joe signing, the city manager signing a contract with them and us getting this process set up. We'll be coming to you soon with a new ordinance related to short-term rentals, small registration fee, and some other rules, some simple things. The state has weighed in on Airbnbs over the last year or two, so we'll have to be careful there. We don't create too many rules because the state has said not too many rules there. So we will work on that and be bringing that forward to you so that when we rule this out, our new policy will be in place. And that's all I got.
Thank you, John.
So first year total cost looks like $12,000. Do we have a ballpark idea of what we think we'll bring in?
They claim, everyone we talk to claims that there's a minimum of 25 or 30 additional people operating short-term rentals in our community that I've been able to capture so far. If you're operating one, Gary, and you're just kind of a little small mom and pop, you're not worried about, you're not aggressive, you don't have anything special, you've just got this back room or this place above your garage that you're renting out, then you're probably rocking along and you're probably paying us anywhere from $90 to about $150 a month. That's about all the business you're doing. Now, I've got people that are doing a lot more than that, but that would be just somebody just rocking along. So even at 100, there's 1,200. There's 1,200, and if there's 15 or 20 more out there, it'll certainly benefit us by doing this. We will not be using these hotel tax funds to actually fund the
Service.
the contract, the service itself. It's more beneficial to us if we go ahead and budget for that, which we have budgeted for, and we go ahead and bring those in. This will also help us in the day that we move forward with a visitors bureau. This will enable us to make sure that we're maximizing the revenue that we can make here so that we will be able to afford a visitors bureau and also provide all the services that are associated with the visitors bureau.
I move that we authorize City Manager Joe Price to enter into a contract with Azavar for professional services to include the identification, monitoring, reporting, collection, and customer service associated with short-term rentals in Canyon.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, that takes us to item number 13. Conduct first public hearing on ordinance number 1182, annexing territory to the city of Canyon, the Lumberyard Ltd. Ordinance of the city of Canyon, Texas, annexing the territory herein described to the city of Canyon in Randall County, Texas, extending the boundary limits of the city of Canyon to include the property herein described within the said city limits, and granting to all the inhabitants of said property all the rights and privileges of other citizens, and binding said inhabitants by all the acts, ordinances, resolutions, and regulations of said city. Joe?
Thank you, Your Honor, or Mayor. This is the first of 2 public hearings for annexation of the property that Rachel and Danny Bird have petitioned to come into the city. Their project is called the Lumberyard, or the Old Lumberyard. It's right out here just to the north of Canyon. It is planned as an entertainment venue, so it'll be a commercial development once annexed. We are allowed to hold public hearings on the same meeting under separate agenda items. So we have provided the commission with the petition for voluntary annexation. Recall that we have previously adopted an annexation calendar setting this date for the public hearings on ordinance 1182, which will be the ordinance that will be adopted at a later time, hopefully annexing the property. So this is the first of 2 public hearings. Agenda item number 14 is the second. So I would request that the first public hearing be opened.
Unless there's any other discussion, we'll open the public hearing.
They signed it.
We'll close the public hearing. And this is not an action at this point, so. And with that, we will go to item number 14, to conduct second public hearing on ordinance number 1182, annexing territory to the City of Canyon, the Lumberyard Ltd., an ordinance of the City of Canyon, Texas, annexing the territory herein described to the City of Canyon in Randall County, Texas, extending the boundary limits of the City of Canyon to include the property herein described within the said city limits, and granting to all inhabitants of said property all the rights and privileges of other citizens, and binding said inhabitants by all the acts, ordinances, resolutions, and regulations of said city. I think
I would
Chuck
assume,
with that.
I would request the second public hearing be opened, and Gretchen can tell us whether or not anybody signed in.
By the way, nobody has signed in, sir.
Have had a question raised. Okay, we've got both these public hearings. You know, this looks like the intent would be to do it at different meetings. Is there any reason that we can see, you know, if it were a forced annexation, I could see why we'd have folks here.
It's my belief it's just an antiquated law because of forced annexation in the past, which is no longer allowed. They haven't updated the law, so instead of making the people wait to annex, we can just get this out of the way legally, doing it this way.
Correct. We couldn't do an unilateral annexation anyway under current law. So it's got to be voluntary. So really, that's the reason there's no controversy on these type of things. The landowner is requesting the city to annex their property for the benefits that accrue to a landowner by virtue of being part of the city. And at the same time, the city manager, director of public works, and other staff have already developed a plan of service, which has been agreed upon and attached to the annexation petition. So there really is no controversy.
So really feel like this was drawn up this way when there was involuntary annexation then?
Well, it's part of Chapter 43 of the Local Government Code, and this part of it hadn't changed under Subchapter C. So we're doing what we perceive that the law requires us to do in terms of allowing public comment.
With that, we'll open it up for the public hearing.
Somebody did sign in. They have.
Go ahead and speak, Christian.
I already did.
Yeah, I don't know why they would not speak up at the first one. They have a second public hearing just minutes away.
Because they like the second one.
Yeah. Seconds, they're lucky enough too.
Then we will close the public hearing, and also no action required at this point. So,
correct.
We've already addressed item number 15. That takes us to item number 16, executive session pursuant to 551.071, consultation with attorney, and 551.074, board appointments, Tiers Board, and Canyon Economic Development Corporation Board. And I have 6:01, and we will retire into executive session.